Separation anxiety and harsh rejection hit like a jab to the genitals in this week's episode of Darling in the Franxx. This episode is like a punch in the gut. It just makes you feel like crap throughout the entire episode as everyone is angry and rejecting each other, and everything just seems like it is going down the shitter. Especially for Hiro, who is recovering from his battle with 02, where he was nearly choked to death. He's been hospitalized, and this does not sit well with his teammates, in particular Ichigo, who has very harsh words for 02 in this episode, and it's at this point that the fan has officially been hit with shit. Basically what I'm trying to say is, there's tension. A lot of it. Ichigo goes completely insane in this episode. Her love for Hiro has driven her to this point, and I almost expected her and 02 to get into a fist fight in this episode. You could feel it happening. You could cut the tension with a knife, pour it over pancakes, it was so thick. And everybody else seems to be on board with wanting to keep 02 away from Hiro, but in doing so, it causes this extreme anxiety between both of these characters. Seeing these two characters separated from one another when they desperately want to see each other is really hard to watch, and they both handle it in completely different ways, with 02 crying in her room and then desperately trying to force her way to Hiro, and Hiro being very sneaky and actually managing to escape from his room so he can find 02. However, this ends up having a pretty bad effect when they actually do allow 02 to go into this room and see Hiro for the very first time. He'd already escaped, and she thinks this is all some sort of plot or plan from the other children. She then proceeds to absolutely beat the crap out of all of them. I thought the series was going to go a little darker here. I honestly thought maybe she was going to kill all of these characters. They were going to kind of try and do what they did in Gurren Lagann by killing off a member of the main cast, except this time it was going to be the entire cast. And if they'd have done that, I would have had to have commended them for the brave choice that they made. But no, basically she just completely pummeled all of them. And it just shows yet again that while she appears human, she certainly possesses abilities that are not human. The thing that hurts the most is when Hiro finally arrives and he actually gets his reunion with 02 after their last violent incident, and the first thing he sees is 02 just beating the crap out of all of his friends and comrades. And she looks so scary in the dark with her glowing red eyes. It's an intense moment where he actually realizes that right there, in this very moment, she's actually acting like a monster. This has an extreme effect on both of their personalities, and now there is a divide. It all ends with everyone surviving their attack and 02 forcibly having to return to the Nines group. And at the end of the episode, as 02 is walking past Hiro and he can't bring himself to say anything, it just hurts, man. It hurts really bad, especially when he finally does decide to turn and start to run towards her. Ichigo stops him, and this is going to be the moment I think most people are going to be talking about. The moment where Ichigo officially professes her love for Hiro, and not only does she do that, she forcibly kisses him as well, and it's so funny because she's so short and she has to stand on her freaky tippy toes just to actually give him a kiss. But this scene is just really intense, and it hurts even more so because then Goro shows up and he sees it, and that's when I saw this as this ultimate collective of pure rejection. It absolutely sucks. 02 has rejected Hiro. Hiro doesn't have the same feelings for Ichigo. Goro loves Ichigo, but she loves Hiro. It's just this perfect storm of drama and teenage hormones, and I'm trying to wonder where all the giant monsters and robots are going to factor into all of this. All I know is, wow, like, I didn't expect it to hit me as hard as it does, but the fact that we spent so much time with these characters at this point, and that really the cornerstone of Darling in the Franxx is about the relationships and the bonds that they form with characters, this episode just really hit hard in many senses. They are building up more action, of course. There is going to be more Klaxosaur battles to be had, but I'm still interested to see how this is all going to tie into the overall narrative, and really what the hell Darling in the Franxx is even trying to do in the first place, as the entire world itself is still a complete and utter mystery. So, what's the rundown on this episode of Darling in the Franxx? Just, whew, what an emotional roller coaster of an episode. That's really the best way to feel about it. For me, the most hard-hitting scene, without a doubt, is the last couple minutes of the episode when Ichigo confesses her love and Goro comes down, and the shot of him walking down the stairs and stopping, and then seeing him in the doorway, and then they cut away, and then they go back to it, and he's just completely missing. Those images tell so much about how he feels during this situation and how he can't stand to actually see this end. I wonder how this is going to have an effect on his character, as he actually confessed his love to Ichigo episodes ago, and it's pretty clear that she just doesn't feel the same way at this point. And even Hiro is kind of dismissive of Ichigo, like, just the whole thing just hurts, man. That's the best way to put it. But it's so human in many ways. I really do like it. You know, it's kind of derivative in some senses, but for what this series is actually going for and what it's trying to highlight, I think it's doing a pretty good job of it. Really, at this point, like I said, the monsters and the robots aren't even really the most important thing about the show. It truly is about the relationships of these characters. Other little details about this episode I liked, with Zero Two, like her horns are getting progressively longer and they're starting to point up a little bit more, like when she was younger. It's almost as if she's slowly but surely reverting back to her more monstrous side. There's also a few other weird flashbacks which make no sense in the episode of her with the higher-ups in the series, the Papa group. I don't know what the deal is with them. They're very Illuminati-esque, but she's like standing in chains before them in her rags in some sort of weird world. Still, they're keeping things very vague, and they're trying to go for sort of like that Evangelion gravitas, if you know what I mean. They're kind of waiting before they drop the bomb on us, and I thought this was going to be that episode. I thought this was the bomb, but we're not there yet. Now that we have the characters separated again, we have to wait for that moment where eventually they will be reunited, they get over their bullshit, and we can finally get back to the actual show. But even with that, all this drama stuff, which typically I'm not really a big fan of, I have to admit that I am actually kind of enjoying it. It's weird because this is not the type of stuff that I actually enjoy, but seeing these characters go through these turmoils and having to overcome them is actually kind of exciting, especially with the weird, mysterious sci-fi backdrop. There's still a lot more in Darling in the Franxx. We're still only about halfway through this series. I can't wait to see what the next half is going to do, because it still has a lot of things to explain. But for what it is thus far, it's a pretty good look into the mind of what it means to be a really stupid and horny teenager. So there it is, another good episode of Darling in the Franxx, and one that definitely hits the emotional heart, if you know what I mean. I'm giving this episode a 4 out of 5. Check it out, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the episode. Tell me all of them in the comment section below. What did you think of that final scene of this episode? Did this episode hit you emotionally? What do you hope to see from the rest of Darling in the Franxx? And really, where do you think it's headed and what's actually going to be offering to the viewer? Let's start a discussion, guys. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down, baby.